What is truth? I'm asking to have this video with you so we may be to discuss a little bit about truth, what it is, how to find it, the search that I went through myself, trying to find it. Along my way and along my search, I have talked to a few people who would tell me truth was in nature, maybe in the butterfly, they were all one, the universal one, and how to become enlightened. I remember asking a couple of these people, the enlightened ones, said they were enlightened, what hemisphere they lived in. They didn't know, but they were enlightened. So where was I going to find truth? That's what my topic is about today. Truth. Where can I find it? Since I was a kid, I've wondered about that, all the way up to age 53, till I found it. That's what I want to talk about, how I found it. But let's go back. Since I was a kid, I wondered about it. My mother was a Catholic, my father was a Protestant, my favorite uncle was Jewish. What should I believe? I suppose if they were all Protestants, I would have been a Protestant. I suppose if they were all Baptists, I would have been a Baptist. If I'd come down in a parachute, I suppose wherever I landed, or whatever they had there, at that time, wherever I landed, that's what I would have had. It's not the way most people, they're into tradition, they follow tradition, and that's what I would have had, most likely. Then there was New Age. There was philosophy. Philosophy was good. It was good for asking questions, but it wasn't much good in getting answers. There was Buddhism. There was Christianity. There was God everywhere, in many versions. Some with a small g, some with a large G. There were dozens of descriptions. There was the Trinity. Some said the Trinity was one. Some said the Trinity was 3 in 1. Some said the Trinity was 1 in 3, 3.5 and 1.5, 2.5 and 1.5, and 4.5 and 3.5. How was I to know? I had never read a Bible, but I heard someone say once, and it came to my mind, I am the truth, the light, and the way. They were talking about Jesus at the time. Who was Jesus? I didn't know. I didn't really know. They said he went to the cross and did it for us. He had some disciples or apostles and walked the desert with them. What did I know? Except the part about the truth, the light, and the way, because I'd heard it. Well, I thought, if someone walked the desert and so forth for us, and did it out of love for us, or compassion, even though I didn't understand it, I would have wanted to respond to that, to the love. Love for us, doing for us, I would want to respond in a similar way back to that. If it were true. If it were true. But how could I know if it were true? Some said you had to believe. Believe? I said, what is belief? Suppose I said, I believe it's Wednesday. I'm raising a question, aren't I? So what's belief? A higher level of questions, or what? If I say it's Wednesday, it's still kind of raising a question, isn't it? I wanted to know. I wanted to know. So concerning Jesus, I stood in the street one day and I looked up and said, I want to know the truth about you. I heard many versions, so I finally looked up and said, I want to know about you from you. I don't want to know from the priests, the pastors, the National Guard, the state police, or the governor. I've been there. About 3 days later, never expecting it, I had a visitation. So real that my Christian counterparts or associates were asking me what I was smoking. Either that or they just weren't interested. They were always accustomed to saying, God told me this, God told me that, whether he did or he didn't. They played upwards with the language. God told me this, God told me that. It was common language. But if I got serious about it, they'd ask me what I was smoking. I can't tell you here about the visitation because it was too real to try to take the time in its detail. But I do want to take the time here to tell you about how I found truth. I found it by standing in the street and telling Jesus that I wanted to know the truth, but I wanted to know it from him. Churches had been telling me from the churches, from the pulpits, you're not supposed to know. You're supposed to go by faith, and that we have the will to believe, and so forth. But I did it anyway, the way I told you. After that, I found 4 pieces of scripture. Without me you can do nothing. Ask and you shall receive. I will reveal myself to you, and we, get the plural, and we will come to him. And that's exactly what I had done. And within the visitation, it was given to me. It was not that I was special, but that this was available to everyone. And he wanted me to tell this and to the churches. And that he was not happy with the churches. And they're telling people that they have the will on their own to believe. When the scripture had said, without me you can do nothing. And this is the way he had me to know. Even if it were to somebody like I was. And why? Because of favorites? No. So the truth could be given to guys like me who are searching and to know from man you can only hear and then go to him to ask. So if you want to know truth and away from many versions, that's the route. Just like standing on the street or whatever and ask from him. Tell him of your problems with belief. He's not concerned as much about our problems with belief. No, he's not. He's interested in whether or not we want to believe and the coming to him then to ask. And this is exactly what Thomas did. But at the pulpits they call him Doubting Thomas, as though the fault was his own from his own will to believe or not believe by himself. But Thomas knew the scripture. He's a light to us with the scripture. He knew from man you could only hear. He knew the right part of without me you can do nothing. When Thomas said unless he saw the nail marks he would not believe, it was the same as if he had said, if I jump off the roof I will not fly. It wasn't attitudinal. It was factual. He knew the scripture. Without me, you could do nothing. So essentially, he did what I did on the street. He went to ask Jesus for the truth. And Jesus didn't read him the riot act. In my case, I will reveal myself to you. It happened, and we will come to him. It happened. Note the we in the plural. So this is what I pass on to you, that you may do it too. Now I don't know what will happen if you raise your fist and saying, I want to know. I want to know. Come prove it to me. I don't know, but I do know that if you stop and think or consider that if somebody, meaning Jesus, walked the desert and even died for us out of compassion or love, now you don't have to understand it here, but just understand the concept, the idea that it was out of love, that he did something for you out of love. And if that were true, would you want to respond to that? If the answer is yes, and you want to know truth, don't worry about your ifs. He knows them already. Explain them from you to him. Maybe like this. Jesus, I have some ifs. It's a paradox to ask you for truth if my first issue is my problem with belief about you. But where else can I go? I came to ask from you. I want to know from you. So I came to ask from you. I don't want to know from the pastor, the priest, the national guard, the state police, and the governor. I want to know from you. Without me you can do nothing. Ask and you shall receive. I will reveal myself to you, and we will come to him. Watch what happens. You will know truth. You will bypass belief, and you will know. Thank you for your time. If I could like to here, I'd like to just end it with a little poem that I wrote after the visitation. And I never did like to put something into the mouth that God told me this or God told me that, unless it were literally true, because so many people were saying these things that they felt inspired, so they say, well, God told me. They play one-uppers with the language and they want to do that. So in this poem, it'll be true. So I wouldn't put it. The name of the poem is Elephants. And it started when I was thinking about Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, the strobe light society we live in, and how was a kid going to believe in anything? And how my aunt used to take me out in the country ride and say, hey, Tommy, look at the elephant up in the tree. Oh, you just missed it. You know how you do with kids. So after the visitation, I wrote Elephants. It went something like this. Wish on a star, they said. What do you see? Look at the elephant up in the tree. I looked and I looked, but I never did see the likes of an elephant up in a tree. But then again, I was only 3. Hold the stones or hold the beads this way, they said. Pray again. So I tried and I tried. I was only 10. When I was 20, kind of late, a thought came to me. There's no elephant up in the tree. Nor is anything more here to see. I walked on past 50, but thinking some more. Who was the one they say knocks on the door? Who was the one who went to the cross? Who was the one who had died but lost? I've been searching, but now I can see. The one who had done this had done it for me. I know, by accident. And his voice was real. It touched me a love that my body could feel. And he showed me a book that could hardly be known. He showed me to read the way he had sung. I've opened your eyes, he says, for you call to me. To others, it's elephants up in a tree. Thank you for your time. I hope I brought something to you to think about.